Yeah, please welcome on stage Max Kops. Max is gonna talk about security token offerings and if they are the next big thing or not. A warm round of applause.
Yes, thank you very much, Thomas. I'm really happy to be here today because I've been studying in Wroclaw 1.5 years ago, and I really love the city, so I came back. And I'm more than happy to be here at this meetup as well. So really cool that you do it in English, and I can share some things with you here. So I want to put some light into this security token thing because I see it's being discussed a lot on every conference, and everybody's speaking about it to be the next big thing, and that it will solve all the issues we had with ICOs, like the scams and all that stuff, which I partly agree with, but there are a lot of things I disagree with. So I just want to demystify that a bit today and put some rational thoughts into it. So just about me, you can be sure that I didn't put the title STO advisor yesterday night on my LinkedIn profile, because I've been in this space since 2013, mainly like from the technical side, doing some Bitcoin mining and all that stuff that the early days started with. But over the years, I basically moved a bit more into this financial thing. So this presentation, compared to the other ones we have had today, is going to be a bit more about financial things. And I think the audience here is quite technical. Like, keep it quite basic and understandable. And yeah, since 2017, I'm advising ICOs and STOs. We've been publishing some books around these topics, unfortunately in German for you, but I'm working on another publication in English, so you can read it as well. I'm going to tell you a bit later. So I have to tell you, of course, that this is no type of financial advice, legal advice, investment advice, or whatever kind of things I'm not supposed to do here. But I want to start with you from a totally different perspective, because when people are speaking about ICOs, they mainly think about tokens, exchange listings, values, and all that stuff. But I want to raise the question how companies work. And the traditional way a company works that we know is there's a customer on the one side, there's the company, and there's the service between them. And the company is providing the service, and the customer basically pays the company for doing exactly that. So now the different thing is that by using a blockchain, we replace this centralized company by a protocol, and this protocol is connecting a lot of different parties to provide the service, and these people providing the service get incentivized. And how do we do that? We basically put a token in between. So this token is serving as a matter of exchange, for example, or a matter of payment, and it incentivizes the people who are actually providing the service. So in this case, we're speaking about utility tokens. So this token we're using for the protocol actually has utility. So I guess Ethereum is the best example for that. We had a decentralized network of miners. We just incentivized them with a Ether token to do so. So yeah, this is basically the type of utility tokens. I just explained it briefly so we can have the distinguishing between utilities and securities. Because as I said, now everybody's talking about securities, and what's the main difference? As you saw before, utilities are directly attached to the services a company is providing, and they are directly attached to the technology. So they are you can't use the product without ever touching the token in most of the cases. While a security token is not directly bound to the service a company is providing. So a security token is just a representation of an asset, which means you could just like store every kind of asset, as we've heard in Alex's talk, for example, real estate on the blockchain, and you have the representation of it stored decentralized. I hope that's going to work a bit better now. So this is the main difference. And putting that a bit more simple, or in an example, let's just imagine we're building a cinema, and we have two options now. We could either implement a utility token, and implementing a utility token in a cinema means nothing else than selling tickets very early when the cinema isn't built yet for a very cheap price. So let's say we sell this ticket for 20 zloty, and investors who are believing that this cinema will be built in 3 years will make a lot of revenue, and people are willing to pay, let's say, 100 zloty for a single cinema ticket. So they actually speculate on the value that this project is bringing is increasing, and they can sell the ticket for a higher price. So the other way of issuing a security is basically more like offering a stock or offering a share or whatever kind of financial product of a company. So basically, you just give out a share and you say, whatever revenue this cinema is going to make in the future, you just distribute the respective amount to the respective share a person has. So owning 20% of the shares gives you the right to own 20% of the revenues made. Now, this is really simple, and I want to dive a bit back on how this space developed, because we've been in 2017 and 2018, which were the biggest times where a lot of money has been invested in ICOs, a lot of money has been lost, and 2017, the beginning of it, it was pretty easy to earn money with it, and many people were like getting into this space because any token you saw, or let's say 80% of them, had high increases on the exchanges. We had high-risk projects and very early-stage projects, and they were mostly focusing on infrastructure, so being technological and mostly first-layer projects. And the out of this success was basically to invest in any token, because 80% of them, just an estimation, were rising in value. So that changed quite a bit in 2018, because we had high losses of token values. Many of them dropped at the exchanges due to various reasons. Most of them weren't just meant to be like taken seriously by the founders. Most of them didn't have a real utility, and they just tried to evade the classical regulations that you have by issuing a security. So they just bypassed the regulation by claiming to be a utility, which does not necessarily make it a utility, but they tried to, and some ended up in jail. The projects were still high risk and early stage, but they were more on the application side, so less infrastructure projects, less technical projects, but more applications, like, for example, a job application built on an existing blockchain like Ethereum. So the other success in 2018 was definitely to pick the very, very few real projects that were actually useful and increasing in token values. So now in 2019, nobody's talking about anymore about ICOs, and everybody's switching to securities, because this is supposed to solve all our issues we have on this planet. And I want to demystify that a bit, because I've recently begun a talk which was titled as Tokens as a New Asset Class. And my second slide was, are tokens a new asset class? And the answer is no, because, well, they're not a new asset class. A token is just, as I just mentioned, a representation of an asset. So it's not an asset class by itself. It's just a new way of doing the old things. Like, we have shares for a long time. We are familiar with shares. And now we just put it on a blockchain. We do it in a more efficient way. But at the end, for me, in the best case, the user doesn't even know that the blockchain is behind. He's just like gaining the efficiency advantages, but he shouldn't be like too involved in this process. So to give you an example, I did some because I'm from Germany, I did some research on how this was going to happen in Germany. And until 1994, if you possessed the share of a company, you were actually having the right to get this share in a paper form. So you could just go to the bank or to the company and say, hey, I want this share, please give it to me. And they were sending it to you as a paper version. And then in 1994, they basically changed that from paper to database. So they did nothing else than putting the same things that were on a paper into technical elements and storing them into a database. And what we're doing now in 2019, and you see it's share and share, it's the same thing, just the technology behind is different. So now we're just switching from database to a token, which basically means we're going from a centralized database to, let's say, a decentralized database. It's nothing more. So the only thing that's changed is the way we store this information, or the way we track who owns what. So demystifying the security tokens a bit and asking for the value proposition is really important, since I have the impression that we're currently seeing the same that happened with ICOs, that people will just invest in STOs because they're an STO and not because of the project behind. And this is not what I believe in, since I would decouple both elements. So you have the business model of a venture, and this venture or this company has monetary resources, and these monetary resources can either be provided by an STO or by any other source of financial resources. So you see, the real advantages we have of using a token, they are directly associated to the STO, but they are not associated to the company. So the company apparently benefits of implementing a security token, so it has a small advantage of a few percents that are lost if they would raise this capital in other ways. But the main value creation is still on the top. It's still directly attached to the company. So just investing in an STO because it's an STO doesn't make sense to me. However, there are a lot of cases in which it makes sense to invest in or to use a security token for tokenizing assets. That's also something Alex mentioned before. My favorite example is the real estate thing, because that's one of the industries that hasn't been digitized a lot, and it offers quite some advantages if you would tokenize it. Because the first thing is fractional ownership. Fractional ownership is quite a quite complicated thing to do right now, so you cannot just invest, let's say, 100 euros into a property, unless you found a company with a couple of founders, and with this company you buy certain real estates, and then you have all these company operations. It's like a really complicated process. So once the infrastructure is there and you can just tokenize it and invest with a very, very small share, this will definitely have some liquidity advantages. And also, apparently the notary efforts are reduced. That's one of the main things in using a blockchain in general, but especially in this case, buying real estate is a really time-consuming and bureaucratic process, which can be definitely replaced by implementing a security token. However, this is also a question that has been raised here in the audience before. We need to make sure that a security token is just not a security token since we call it a security token, but it's actually considered as a security by law. So it has certain rights that are ensured by the regulator. So, which means if we are buying a property, who takes care of managing it? Who takes care of maintaining the property? Who takes care of collecting the money from renters, from distributing them? All that sort of stuff needs to be sorted out. So we're definitely not yet at the point where we have to be to make it able for mass adoption. And this is one of the main things why regulation is one of the main parts in security tokens. It hasn't been in ICOs or in utility tokens, because most of the people claimed they're not selling a security which falls under securities laws, which are definitely not a fun part, because they just said they are selling a product basically, so they just evaded the regulation, which is not possible with security tokens anymore. So I guess it's pretty clear that security tokens have some advantages, and they will definitely evolve, and I personally believe that in a couple of years we'll see them as the main technology used for assets and for financial products to be stored in. But as I said, I just want to rationalize the topic and like question the hype it currently has on most of the conferences. So just keep in mind why people tell you that tokens are a new asset class. They always have an intention of doing so. So projects, of course, tell you security tokens are the next big thing because they want to ride the hype and they want to raise money. Service providers, of course, trying to tell you that security tokens are a new thing because, well, they want clients. Academic researchers, of course, trying to tell you that security tokens are a new thing because they want exposure, and so do fundraisers because they want to raise money. So what's the takeaway of this presentation? Blockchain startups can really change a lot. They can offer tech-driven innovation, but we should definitely be aware of the hype. We should be aware of the real advantages security tokens have and the big stories that are told about them. They do offer some technical advantages, but they are never a self-fulfilling prophecy. And the last of it, be aware of the hype and always ask for the intention that people have. So that's my last word, and thank you very much.
Okay.